Good morning. My name is Stretch Hoff, and I'm an interviewer for the Hamilton County and Cincinnati Public Library. And this morning we have Mr. Marvin Belkin with us to tell us his story. And Dennis Daly is our cameraman today, and it's November 25th. So, Marvin, welcome.
Thank you.
We're privileged to have you here to tell us your story.
Okay.
Okay, and so what we like to do is start from the very beginning, where you were born, and tell us about your early life. And
Okay. Born in St. Paul, Minnesota. Spent most of my young life in Minneapolis, just across the river. And the early part of my life, I guess, was following all of the great world events that were taking place, and that was World War II, the beginning of World War II. I had to register for the draft, as everyone did at that time.
what year was this?
This was 1942.
Okay. Were you about 19 years old or 20? Or
18.
18?
Yep.
Wow, okay.
And I had finished pre-med at an early age. I got out of pre-med when I was, believe it or not, 15 years old.
Wow.
And I couldn't, however, get into med school, so that was another story. But I found out that I would probably be drafted into being a foot soldier, something like that. I didn't look forward to that very much. I had always been interested in flying, though I never had the wherewithal to follow up on it. But I enlisted in the then Air Corps, Army Air Corps.
Okay.
And this was the beginning of it all. I had got called in, and in December, I believe it was, of that year.
42 now?
42, right. And I took my pre-flight at Santa Ana, California.
Okay.
All in the 4th Air Force out there, 4th Air Corps. I then went to basic at Merced.
Now, when you were in Santa Ana, is that when you learned how to fly?
No, ground school, that
Okay.
type of thing, yes.
Right.
But the actual flying came at a later date.
Okay.
So we then went to basic, where we flew the Vultee vibrators, as they were called. And that was the beginning of it. From there, you go two ways. Either multi-engine or single engine. And naturally, I and every other guy in the Air Corps at that time wanted to be the hot pilot in single engine. And I wasn't fortunate enough to get that, so they got me into multi-engine. And
Now, when you were in Merced, that's where you learned how to fly?
Yes.
And how
yeah.
long were you there?
Oh gosh, probably 6 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 6 months you learned how to fly.
Yeah, pretty
and that
good.
fulfilled kind of a boyhood dream, I guess, to be a pilot.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
in a way. In a
Okay.
way. But I was lucky enough to spend all of my time in the West Coast area. And we were assigned, I was assigned to multi-engine. Excuse me, I went to, oh boy, Liberal, Kansas, where we
That
were.
sounds like a lot of fun.
The garden spot of America. Liberal, Kansas, where we were assigned to B-24 Liberators.
Right.
And
Now this is probably like the middle of 43, is
yeah,
that right? Okay.
beginning of 43,
Right.
actually. And that was it.
Now when you
And-
were learning how to fly at Merced,
Mhm.
were you with the same group you were going to fly with during the war,
No,
or did
no.
when did that all that happen? Or that,
I have no idea how it actually happened. It certainly wasn't by design or anything, but or by lottery draw or anything at all like that. But you were given orders and assigned to a certain group,
Okay.
training group, and that's how it came about.
Okay. Okay, so now you're in Liberal, Kansas.
Yeah, Liberal, Kansas. I'm
Okay.
learning how to fly the great big B-24, and a lot of people didn't have many nice things to say about it, but I thought it was a pretty good aircraft. It's a rudder aircraft, and it was a little more difficult to fly than the B-17, which is an aileron aircraft.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed it. I really did. From there, we had to go to Hammerfield, Fresno, and we were assigned our crew there. We gathered our crew together at this point.
Tell us about the crew. Like, how many are there in the crew?
There are 10 aboard the B-24s. You have your pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, and then six others that would be gunners, plus one was the radio operator and the gunner, and so on and so forth. They all had double jobs.
Yeah,
to
double
do.
jobs,
Couple of
slash
jobs
gunner,
to do.
right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that was it. And from there, we got our overseas orders, and didn't have to wait too long for those.
Yeah.
And, we flew overseas. I think the only claim to fame that I might have, I don't know if it was ever recorded or not, but I spent more time flying from my point of embarkation, which was Grenier, New Hampshire. So I picked up our brand new B-24 at Hamilton Field in San Francisco, and flew cross country to Grenier, the various stops in between till we got to Grenier. And then from Grenier, it took us from our point of from our assignment to where we were going. It took us about 30 some odd days to
30
get.
days?
to
I was
get-
going to say hours as days.
That's right. But we had lots of trouble. We had magneto trouble and things like that, and it just kept piling on, piling on. Everyone didn't seem to mind it so much. We saw a great part of the world, places like Algiers and Cairo and Abadan, Iran, and places
Boy.
like that we ordinarily wouldn't have seen, so.
Well, said you'd see the world, don't
Yeah,
you? Okay.
exactly, before.
Yeah.
And so that was it. We were assigned to a group that was based in, I think it was Dhaka, and in Burma. And
Now this is what, are we getting to like late
30s.
43?
the 30s,
Okay.
yeah, 30,
Okay.
43s, late
Okay.
43s. Yeah. And we flew coordinated missions with the British and also with the Flying Tigers, believe it or not.
So now you were in Burma, is that where you were flying
Mhm,
from?
yeah.
To China, correct? Okay.
Right. China, we did fly over the hump to a certain degree, you know, but
Well, tell us what your missions were and what you were carrying. And
well, the capacity of the 24 is 10,000 pounds of bombs, and which is bigger than the 17, and it was the biggest bomber at the time. But can I digress for a moment?
Sure.
And just say that I'm sorry if I'm a little slow.
You're doing great.
I have some medical problems, and everything's moving a little slower than.
Okay, just
So.
take your time.
Okay. But we flew bombing missions, cities such as Singapore. Ken, you know that? And, no, let's see, Singapore, Andaman Islands, places like that. The enemy action wasn't that great, so we weren't that concerned about it. It was relatively easy bombing without any real problems along the way.
Now, was the purpose of this to support the Chinese army? Is this how you got in with the Flying Tigers situation?
Yeah, I think so. I think that could have been the reason for it. Yeah, absolutely. But in the interim, we were being introduced to a new aircraft that was on the horizon. And it turned out to be the B-29.
Right.
Okay. And they asked for volunteers to take training in B-29s at that time. I was very happy to volunteer because I was still young and everything, and I wanted a little.
There's this big airplane there.
Yeah, I wanted a little action too, you know. But we were greeted one morning with a flight of 6 B-29s coming in.
Into Burma?
Into Burma. No, this was in Chengdu, China, actually, right,
Okay.
after we had made one of their trips. And
You had the B-29s coming in there.
B-29s were coming in, and we were just simply awed by the dimensions of this thing. It's the largest aircraft that anyone had seen at that point. And it was just amazing. At any rate, there was a group of us that were assigned to this flight of B-29s, and we started shooting touch-and-go landings after getting some ground school before that, and I don't know how many we flew out of there, how many basic missions we flew, just perimeter flying and touch and go landings and that type of thing. And then all of a sudden we were declared aircraft commanders of B-29.
All right, yeah.
This is, this,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, because hell, here's a brand new aircraft we had never seen before or anything, but they were interesting us. But after that, a few more 29s came in. They were flown over with civilian pilots, and they took us into ground school and gave us a little more thorough education. And by that time, the Marianas were ours. They just took the Marianas, and after this battle, and we moved part, parcel, and everything down to Guam, Saipan, Tinian.
Before we get into that, let me digress a little bit.
Yes.
I want to know a little bit more about the missions that you flew, like over the hump, because I've read where it was very dangerous flying because of the altitude and the amount of weight you had on your airplanes.
Yes, there was a lot of problems with fuel, and
So much of it, or?
yeah, so
The
much
weight
of
of
it, and also we had to transfer bomb bay tanks that were installed
Okay.
at that time. And there was a lot of problems on takeoff. We lost a lot of aircraft
Yeah.
doing that. And it wasn't an easy time, it really wasn't.
Yeah.
But somehow or another got through it.
Do you recall how many missions you flew over the hump?
Oh gosh, I think out of the total of 52 that I had, which includes 29s and 24s, probably 30 or so, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was reading too that planes would crash and you'd use the spare parts from these crashes, like the crash and take off, to repair the other airplanes, and that was a big problem, wasn't just
Yes.
getting enough planes
Yes, it
to
was. Yeah.
make the missions.
Yeah. We kept the mechanics pretty busy. And really
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay, now where are we in time now that you go to the Marianas?
In time now, we're in 44.
44.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you were
44.
trained to fly those to fly the 29s.
Mhm.
Was it in China at the airfield?
We had, in
Okay.
Chintu, China,
Okay.
and also flying out of Kunming as well. I don't know what they're called today.
What the cities? You mean the cities, or?
Yeah. But,
Shouldn't do it, John, because they changed all the names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
and
At that time, is that about when didn't they merge the Flying Tigers in with your group?
yeah, they did. That
Okay.
was a little before that, actually.
Yeah.
But
In
yeah, they
42,
did.
I think. But they
Yeah.
were okay.
Uh-huh. In fact, we were decorated by Lord Louis Mountbatten for one of the
Really?
trips we took with them. Yeah,
Oh, great.
trip. So
Yeah.
it was just a group
Uh-huh.
thing, you know. nothing-
So the British were flying with you also?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're in 1944 and you're in the Marianas with your brand new B-29.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this, it was a lovely aircraft, but we had, again, a lot of trouble with engines. And they finally settled on one engine from oh dear.
Did Boeing make those, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Was it from the British? Was it a
No, it was American engine.
Pratt and Whitney?
Pratt and Whitney, yes. Thank you, yeah. And but they kept on. Finally, got over the hump with the old engines, and it turned out to be a hell of an aircraft once they
Didn't
got
they,
the
I was reading, weren't the gunners, weren't they remote controlled? on the
remote
airplane?
control, right.
And
yeah.
tell us about the crew of the B-29.
B-29 had a crew of 11.
Mhm.
And just as in all the other B-24s, and so they had their pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, but there was a fifth officer, a fire control officer,
Mhm.
and then 6 gunners and
Mhm.
all of that. But how can I compare it? You know, I think of this like moving from a 1-bedroom apartment into a 5,000 square foot home, you know, or something like that. It was just an amazing
All the
turnaround,
space.
really, yeah.
I know when they have these aircraft come in at Lunken
Yeah.
Airfield, I've gone there a couple times and gotten in those airplanes, and I thought, you know, where in the world do you guys fit in there? It's incredible.
Yeah, they do. It was a very good aircraft, but it was, we lost, again, a lot of aircraft to just not having enough runway and too much load.
Even for the
okay.
29s?
Yeah. 12,000-foot runways on those islands, but gosh, I was witness to 3 of them just blowing up.
Do you have any close calls yourself?
Yes, I've sweated quite a few of them out, and pilot and co-pilot on the yoke, just
Yeah.
man, the yoke pulled right in here, you know,
Get that
to
thing off the
to
ground.
get the darn thing off the ground.
Okay, now you were flying out of Guam, you said?
Out of Guam,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
And tell us
Guam
about
and Tinian, Guam and Saipan.
Saipan.
Tinian turned out to be a different story. This is the island that housed the privileged ones that dropped the A-bomb.
We were wondering about that. Okay, that's where the Enola Gay was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Was that pretty much secret? Did you guys know that was going on at all?
We knew something was going on. We certainly had no idea that nobody heard of an atomic bomb, you know,
Right.
so we had no idea. But
One of the best
we
kept
knew
secrets.
something
Yeah.
was cooking, you know, and we were all teed off at them because they were getting all the jungle rations, you know, all the beer and cigarettes and things like that. And there we were, poor little guys on the other 2 islands. And we,
What about us? Huh?
yeah, what about us? Oh man, that was something.
Okay, tell us about your missions to Japan.
Okay.
Guam to Japan.
We started out as a high altitude bomber, and that didn't last too long.
Why not?
Just what the results weren't fruitful, really, and They
You were doing
started.
precision bombing, weren't you? And
Pardon?
what were your targets? They were pretty precise, weren't they?
Our targets were very precise,
Yeah.
yeah. But not only the larger cities in all of the islands of Japan, but the factories, you know, given within those cities. And we did find out in a hurry, though, something that changed the attitude of the bombing for the 29s, and that is that Japan was, Tokyo particularly, was made up of nothing but wooden structures. And one stack of fire bombs could wipe out a city in no time flat, you know. And so this is something that they started doing, dropping fire bombs on various cities, and that was the type of mission that we did.
So were you still at higher altitudes doing that? Is that
No,
or just-
lower
is it?
altitudes.
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere from 5,000 up
Okay.
could be. Yeah, and I guess I got a little bit ahead of myself when I told you that we were having difficulty in getting the bombs out, released and everything. We started running these lower altitude missions with fire bombs, and dropped the bombing altitude from, or the release altitude to 5,000 feet from the higher altitudes that we had. And we lost a few aircraft doing
Now,
that.
at the
too.
time, were the Japanese, I mean, did they have anti-aircraft? That was your main, their main defense at the time?
That was our main worry,
Yeah,
actually.
okay.
Yeah. Pretty well decimated their Air Force.
Mhm.
They still were flying some Zeros, that's for sure, but pretty well decimated their Air Force, and we had that to fall back on, really, and that's what
Now,
we were doing.
how many miles was it, or how long did it take you to get from Guam to Japan and back? What was your?
Okay. It's we're talking possibly a 10-hour trip,
Okay.
and
That pretty well went on all the time, didn't
all
it?
the
It was
time.
solid.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Night and day.
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep. We flew a lot of missions. We certainly did.
We should be at the dead reckoning.
I'm sorry?
The dead reckoning that you had to do to get to and from the island, how you navigated.
Yeah.
Okay, now, is this, I know you
Dead-
were shot down, does this lead into this story, or what?
No.
No.
Okay,
Just that.
How they got from Guam to Japan and back.
okay,
Yeah, it's called Dead Reckoning. The navigator has to fly the plane, really. He uses
that was your
dead
job.
reckoning
Okay.
to get from Saipan to the
the target.
target, right. And
Is that because he had all the bombing sites and
Yep.
this sort of thing?
yeah, he had all the necessary tools for it, that's for sure, yeah. But this is, there were kind of a lot of firsts that were involved in this, if I might digress a little bit here and there. The 29 was the first aircraft to be Oh, darn.
Or they have to do with the navigation of the plane?
No, it had to do, this had, the thing I'm thinking of didn't have to do with navigation, but it's all part and parcel of it, actually. It's the
Pressurization.
pressurization. Thank you.
Pressurization, okay.
Right. Thank you very much. Pressurization was the first aircraft to be pressurized.
So the 24s?
Even to the point that the nose part of the aircraft had the pilot, co-pilot, navigator, and bombardier up there.
Uh-huh.
Now, if they wanted to be in contact with the rear of the aircraft and all the other pieces, there was like a little railroad that ran from the front through the bomb bays and to the rear of the aircraft. And that's the only part of the plane that wasn't pressurized.
Uh-huh.
But it was a hell of a feat of engineering, really. It was
And then
quite-
all the remote control.
all the
guns.
remote control stuff. Yeah.
How did that work? I mean, how did this remote thing work? Did it lock in on airplanes automatically, or did
No.
the gunners did they do it, or
No, the fire control officer was
the
the
11th
one.
man?
The 11th man, right,
Uh,
was the guy that set up most of it, yes. Yeah. However, the navigator could also do some of it.
So this fire control officer, what, did he have like a control panel in front of him or
Sure.
something? And-
Yes,
Wow.
exactly. Right.
Wow.
A very large panel, as a matter
Yeah.
of fact.
Yeah.
And
So you flew about 20 missions
Mhm.
over Japan then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Tell us about your experience of getting shot down
Yeah.
and from there.
We had 2 engines shot out from under us, and we just had a hell of a time we toggled all the bombs out to give us a little more mobility, a little more weight, a little less weight, I should say. And we had the 2 engines out, and just as the second one went out, the third one started in, and you just can't fly on one engine,
No.
you know. And we pulled up as hard as we could, my pilot and co-pilot, my co-pilot and I, and got the yoke as far back as we could just to get every inch of altitude. And we were lucky to get everybody out except one. We had one fatality. And that was it.
So you were over the island of Japan when this happened, and you all parachuted except for
Yes.
for one.
Except for one, right.
And now,
This is New Year's Day, 1945.
19, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, New Year's Day of 45. You care to tell us about being a prisoner of war?
Well,
It's,
not much to tell.
So when you all
Uh,
bailed out, what kind of terrain were you?
We were over land, of course,
Yeah.
but, and this was a night mission, so we couldn't tell exactly what the terrain was like, but
Okay.
we had to get out of there. So that's all there was to it. Thank God we were able to get everybody out.
Yeah.
About when the when you came down and we landed,
Oh, yeah.
that immediate experience?
Okay, we all landed in a fairly close proximity. Could have been like maybe 1 or 2 city blocks or so. I
Wow.
think that we all kind
Yeah.
of
That's
got out.
amazing.
Right. But we were so low that I guess it was just easier to do, guiding the chute in and everything. We got out, the first thing we did is we were told, and it's kind of a stupid thing because here we are in Japan, there's nowhere to go, you know, but
What do we do?
we dug a hole and buried our parachute and our sidearms that we had. And this was just SOP.
Yeah.
You know, you're supposed to do that.
Sure.
We did it, and we said, what are we going to do? We just decided to start walking a little bit, and we got, maybe a half hour or so later, I don't know how far we had walked or whatever, we came to an outpost that had a guard there. And I have no idea of what it was or anything, but he saw that we were Americans he saw the plane come down,
Yeah.
evidently, and but we all climbed on board. He had a little wagon. It looked like a hay wagon of some kind. We got on board that, and before we knew it, the next stop was an outpost where there were a couple of more guards, and so on. And that was the beginning of our journey through. Finally wound up in a camp that was not too far from Sapporo,
Okay.
in the northern part of the islands. And,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And
Now, how were you treated?
miserably.
The
We-
Japanese weren't famous
We,
for
no,
good
no.
treatment.
We, we were given a bowl of wormy rice and water per day. That was our total subsistence, a 24-hour period of time. We worked at hard labor. We broke rock, which they in turn, I don't know what they were doing with it, but that's what we did. And that was about anywhere from 10 to a 12-hour day doing
My gosh.
that. And the beatings were there.
Trying to get information.
Yeah, you could just smile at them, you know, and they'd
Now, were all 10 of you fellows all together during this experience? They split you
No.
apart?
Yeah, we were split apart. Actually, there's only one other one that I was with, and but gosh, there were people from Australia, Chinese. No, just a
Sounds awful.
world of
Now,
people.
what was the weather like during all this?
Cold, very cold, yeah.
Because you're in, yeah. And how long did this last?
Until the end of the war. It
Till-
would have been for August of 45.
So you
Yeah.
were there
Yeah.
8 months?
Yeah.
8 months.
Woke up one day and lo and behold, we couldn't see any guards around. And a few more started leaving the compound and walking around and everything. And we did that for a couple of days, and we were scrounging for food.
Yeah.
Just anything at all that might be edible.
But the guards were gone.
The guards were gone, and a couple of days later, we ran into a group of Aussies,
Uh-huh.
and they had landed. Their group of, I don't know what you would call it, group of soldiers had landed up north of the islands, Kaido, and they were working their way down to see who they might see, if anything.
So they were your liberators.
Kind of our liberators,
Yeah,
right.
brother.
Mhm.
What, do you lose a lot of, I can't imagine doing that for eight months. I just can't imagine what you went through.
Well,
I mean, physically, did you lose a lot of weight? And
yeah, I did. I think, I don't know, I told you the story, I think. How many pounds did I lose? Huh?
About 30 pounds.
30 pounds?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, boy.
yeah. But, yeah,
Do you know of the 10 of your the comrades there, did they all make it through this thing, or?
yes.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
We did have one reunion that we saw some people. This was in 1947, I think.
Mhm.
And I found out that most everybody had
Mhm.
gotten out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what happened then? This is in August of 45. What happened then once the Australians got to you, and what happens after that?
Well, we were picked up by helicopter, and I don't remember where we went, to be honest with you, but we eventually were transferred from the base where the helicopter was to a hospital ship that was out in the harbor.
Was that a quick thing? How long was it till you got some good food to eat?
Oh gosh, it was quite a bit of time, but they got it to us as soon as we
Yeah.
got on board that ship, and they fed us a lot.
Okay.
It was good.
Good. Yeah.
It
I'll
was
bet.
great.
Okay, go from there then. Where
Okay, that's
you're on a hospital ship.
hospital ship, and we were taking evasive action, even though the war had come to a close. And landed in San Francisco, and from there transferred to a regular hospital, and checked out pretty well and all, and eventually sent me home for a little R&R.
Is this like late 45, or is this into 46 by any chance?
Yeah.
Or- Okay.
46.
What a story. On to happier times. Once you got home, what happened then?
Well, let's see, what happened?
And where is home at this point?
Home was still the Twin Cities,
Yeah, okay.
Minneapolis. But I then signed up for the next quarter at the University of Minnesota. I wanted to get in there and get my degree at least, and I stuck that out for just a couple of months, and and pulled out of there. But I did manage to get a degree in business administration. Let's see, 1946. I kept my time.
Okay, give him a minute here.
Going
We
here.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we'd like to go from, you're in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And
And I just, in a short period of time, I got my degree from the university
what was the degree in?
in business
Okay,
administration.
business.
Right,
Or business administration, you said.
yes,
Okay.
right. And then I met with a guy from Chicago, actually, and he was a Navy pilot, and he told me the story about possibility of his going to Palestine.
In
Uh,
1946.
46.
We are,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I'm still young. I was, what, 21 or 22, I think, at that time. So we went to Chicago. We found out a little bit more about what was involved. And the next thing we knew, we enlisted our services, or gave them our services of teaching them how to fly and all of that. Set up a ground school
In Palestine?
in Palestine.
Now, who sponsored that whole program? Was that the United States government sent
the-
you guys over there? Or was
Yes, and somehow they were involved, though they didn't want anyone to know about it. But most of it was from monies of people in the United States and Europe, that people of means, in
saw
other
the
words.
need for an air force
Yeah,
in Palestine?
yeah.
Okay.
And they went through what was called the War of Independence, I guess you might know. But what we did, I'll go back to the beginning. Actually, we set up ground school. They didn't know a rudder from an aileron or anything at all. And we really educated them as to how to fly a plane. And after that, we had a couple of more pilots signed on. We finally wound up with 20 some odd pilots that were there to teach the...
Americans, 20 Americans that were, okay.
Yes, mainly Americans. There were one or two from, there was one from England, I think, and one from South America, I recall. But it was mainly Americans. And we just got them going. We set them up to the point where they were getting the first round of planes that we got for them were the Texan, the AT-6.
Those were training aircraft?
Training
Yeah.
aircraft. And we had 6 of those. That was the start of the aircraft that we were going to get. And we mounted 30 caliber machine guns on them, and that was their armament.
Is that right?
Uh,
Did that become their Air Force then?
This
those planes?
became their Air Force. There never was anything at all like this before. You can't compare it to anything or to try to tell you how we did it, but it was all by hand to mouth, so to speak. And we got a group of the Haganah, which is the Israeli OSS,
Okay.
and later on, the OSS became the CIA, right?
Mhm.
So the Haganah was the local
Was
version
this kind
of
of a
this.
covert action you were involved
Oh,
in?
definitely, definitely
Yeah,
covert.
sounds like it.
To the point that the next load that we got off of a tanker that came in to Palestine had big crates, and they were marked tractor parts. And the Haganah had set it up beautifully, but they sure did. And inside were ME-109s. And we had those fixed up in no time, and got them going, and that was one hell of an aircraft, I want you to know.
Is it really?
It was a great fighter plane, it really was.
What, very maneuverable and
Yeah, yeah. And so that was the start of the whole thing. And then, the War of Independence came through, and that was it.
So how many more aircraft? Did the aircraft keep coming in then after that
Yes,
started? And
yes.
How many pilots did you train?
We trained, I think, all told, about 18.
And did they pick the program up after that then?
Mhm.
Or you guys got them started and then they had their
Got
own
them
training
started,
program?
and then we had new pilots coming in, some with some education, but they had to be trained our way,
Sure.
and but I stayed until 1948.
So that's what, a couple
so
of years?
when the War of Independence,
It was over at that point?
yeah, it was over then, and then I came home.
But I have one more question.
Yes.
What, did the U.S. government recognize you were over there? I mean, how does that operate? I mean, they knew you were there and...
They knew we were there, but nothing was ever said or done. And of course, we just outmaneuvered and outgunned and outdid everything to any of the Arab aircraft that we came in contact with. So we were definitely much stronger in that regard then.
Now,
And,
I understand you got a lot of recognition from the country over there. Can you tell us about that, or is this coming on in your story? And
yeah, there's
don't be humble. Tell us
no,
everything.
I'm not being humble. I can't think of any real recognition. Oh, we've met some very famous people over there. Moshe Dayan, the one-eyed gentleman. Baba, what's her name?
The one who was the president, the
Yeah.
lady, the grandmother.
Oh, she is, yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I can't think of her name.
I don't remember.
Golda Meir,
Meir.
yes. Thank
Okay.
you, right, yeah. And so it was fun meeting them, you
What
know.
an experience.
It was great experience, really. And
You got no recognition until about 2 months ago, when there was a dinner.
yeah,
And
Okay,
they
tell us.
recognized you.
yeah.
Tell us about that. So you're in 1948 now, and you came home.
Yes. And
This is when you met.
I went back to
Your wife?
school again for a
Okay.
little bit, and then I was called back in for a little bit for the Korean conflict.
Okay.
And
What were you doing then?
not much of anything, really. I flew some missions. They brought in the B-50, which was a dressier version of the B-29 in reality. I just was a lost youth at that time, I guess, really. Not knowing what to do or what I wanted to do or anything, but
Well, how long were you in the Korean conflict?
I was there for, just about 6 months or so.
So that 1949, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Flew some missions there.
Yeah.
All bombing again? You were
Bombing.
always
I was
a
an-
multi-engine guy.
But they made me an instructor, which I didn't like.
Okay, now we have to get in this, you went to a dinner a few months ago.
Yes.
Tell us about that recognition, please.
It,
Dr. Jeffries, told them about your experience.
oh, yes.
They honored you then.
Dr. Zipkin's a friend. He insisted somehow, I think Gary filled him in on what I had done, our son Gary. They're partners in the urology office here.
Okay.
And they said that they're going to honor me at the dinner. And I said, gee, that sounds nice. But I had no idea what was going on. And I walked in that evening, and there were over 300 people sitting there. And
Oh, wonderful.
We didn't know.
Is this for your work in the Palestinian effort?
Yes.
Okay,
right.
fantastic.
And also Gene Schmidt, who was talked about me on yeah,
C-SPAN.
C-SPAN.
Very good.
And so these were all things that, good Lord, I never would have
Never
anticipated.
believed you were going.
Never would have believed
Yeah.
that. But
Well, I really thank you for telling your story. It
you're
was
welcome.
so interesting,
Thank you.
and we thank you for all the service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marvin,
We should
how old are
ask
you?
him his age.
Yeah, how old are you right now today?
How old am I?
How
Yeah, how old are you?
Yeah, what's your age?
84.
80.
84, looking good.
Looking good.